Hi guys, my name is Karthik and I am from executeautomation.com and welcome to part 31 of our BDD video series. And in this video I'll be talking about extent reporting with Specflow and Selenium C# and this is part C. Well, you can see that we have reached to part C and we have been discussing about extent report from part 29, 30 and 31. So before watching this part, I would request you to watch part 29 and 30 so that you can have a clear understanding of what this part is going to be talking about. So let's get started. So the problem that we had with our existing code that we have currently is this. The step types are hard-coded, as you can see in the after step that we discussed in our previous video, is actually passing the given step type every time. So it is hard-coded there. And similarly, there is no way to define a pass or fail test. So every time the report is generated in the HTML was always passed. So there is no way that it tells that it is a failure test step or something like that. So it has to be addressed as well. And similarly, there is no way to tell if the step is not implemented, because if there is a step in the scenario that is not implemented, then it should report that as a skip or something like that. So those are some of the most important things that has to be reported as a part of extent report so that people can understand that the report is really interactive, not just like a log that you can see even from a text file. So in order to overcome this problem, we have few solutions. The first solution for the given, when and then is this. We can make use of what is called as a scenario step context.current.step-info.step definition type. So the step definition type property returns you what kind of step type it is, whether is it a given type or is it a when type and then type. So if it is a given step type, then you can tell that okay, so this is a given, so this is the code. And similarly, if it's a when, then you can tell okay, this is a when step. Similarly, this is a then step, then you can specify that. So this is a very simple solution that we can write in the same hook so that you don't really have to hunt around how do you define that. That's one of the important and easy solution that we can do for the given, when, then problem. And then we have one more problem, which was how to define the pass and failure. That's very simple as well. There is something called a scenario context.current.test_error. So this particular property test error will tell us that is this a pass test or a failure test. So if this is going to be null, which means there is no test error and the existing code that we saw here can be used. But if there is any failure, if it is not null, then you can just make use of what is called as a fail method, and then here you can pass the inner exception of the test error. That easy it is. And again, these are some of the information that we have already discussed in our BDD video series of the same Execute Automation channel. So please go ahead and watch those videos so that you can have clear understanding of what these things are all about. And finally, the last solution for this problem is there is no way to tell if the step is not implemented. So for doing that, we need to make use of what is called as reflections in C#. So first of all, we need to get the property called test status. And again, this test status is not an publicly exposed property by scenario context. So we can get that particular test status using reflections. So we can get that non-public method, and then we can invoke the scenario context.current to get the test result. So if the test result is actually going to be step definition pending, then we can just add the same thing, but just that there is a skip method. So once we add that, we are good. So that's the pending status. So if we do all this information, our report is going to be more intuitive than what it is currently. So let's quickly see everything in action and understand how things work. So for that, I'm going to flip to Visual Studio. Alright, so this is the same code that we have been talking so long in our course so far. And now that we have this after step and we know what is the problem and we know also the solution that we saw on the slide. So the first thing we need to do is this. We need to create the step type. So for that, I'm just going to do this. Step type is equal to the scenario step context property.current, property called current, and there is a step info, and then there is something called a step definition type. So you can make it as a toString because it returns you a step info, right? So I'm just going to make a toString, and then I'm going to put in if condition here. So if the step type is equal to given, then do this code, right? Similarly, if else if the step type is equal to when, then just copy this code and paste it over here and change the type as when. And similarly, if it is going to be then, so I can just copy it over here. Okay, the when W should be capital. So if it is then, that's it, right? So since we have to pass the type here, I have to write this kind of nagging if and else if conditions, right? So that's for the step definition type. So I'm just going to save it and I'm going to run this test right now. So you will see that instead of given here, you will see a little more intuitive way of the reporting than what we have right now. So it is currently running the test. All right, generated. So all the givens are going to be a little bit changed, I guess. Yep, there is a then now. Cool. So meaning it is automatically rendering that. So the reason why there is only one then is because you can see there is only one then. So given and okay, we require an and as well. So we did not write that. So let's go over here to the code and then we need to write and. Else if the step type is equal to and, if it is, then just write an and, right? It is still given. So basically, even if it is an and statement, I guess the reason is because if I go over here, if I do an F12, you can see that the step definition actually has a given here rather an and. So basically, if it is an and here, it should have been an and, but since it is not an and, it is a given, our report is actually returning as the and given here. So there is no harm in doing that. So we have to make sure that we call the and instead of just the given, right? So that's not a big deal at all. All right, so this is how we can control the given, when, then problem. And then we have one more problem, which is the errors. So if there is any error, so because so far we don't really have any errors, we cannot say there is any problem. So let's try to run this particular scenario. I guess this scenario is also going to get passed, but instead, and I verify the enter username and password. If I go over here, right, where is the assert here? I guess I have did some assertion, yeah, in here. So I'll just try to make this as failure so that I can have a failure report. So if I just do a run, you can see that the test is going to fail, but still the report is going to give as a false negative report because there is no way that we have handled that. So we are going to handle that as well. All right, the test has got failed. And if I try to run this report, you can see still it is in green color. So it's completely false negative. So in order to resolve this issue, as I said, we have to use what is called as the scenario context dot current dot test error is equal to null, right? So if it is null, then you just run this whole code. If not, you just write this code. So you can see that there is a scenario context.current.test error is not equal to null. Just that I have put a failure along with that inner exception and there is a message or something like that, right? So I'm just gonna save this completely, and then if I try to run this test this time, so the test is running, it should fail. And now if I go to the report and if I refresh this, wow, we now have a red color, which is really cool to see that there is a failure. So 3 pass steps and there is 1 fail step here. So this means it is actually working to show us there is a failures as well, right? So that's really cool. So that's how we can handle the failures. And the final thing that I was talking about is the skipped versions. So if you see this one, the logout is currently not even implemented. So here the scenario context.current.pending is in pending state. So even if I run, there is nothing called a skip. So in order to see the skip, because if you go to the report, you can see there is something called as pass, failure, errors, warning, and skip. So we have to make sure that the skip also being reported in our report. So for doing that, I'm going to make use of our reflection, as I said. So again, I'm not going to type the code again and again because it's there already in the slide. So I'm just going to copy paste it over here, and I'm going to create a pending status if condition here because it won't fall under the else if condition. So this is the skip version. So if the step definition pending comes in here, so just call the skip method, pretty much exactly the same code like failure here, right? So if I run this scenario, right, so you can see that this is running. There we go. You can see that it shows that one or more step definitions are not implemented yet. And if I go to the report and if I refresh it, you can see it's in blue color right now. So the blue means the status is actually in skipped state. So basically it's in a skip state right now. So we can see that we have a skip, we have a failure, and we have a pass feature. So if I try to run all of them together, we are going to get a weird error. And the reason is because it is going to be a Specflow thing. Basically, we are running this particular project as a parallelizable attribute, this one. So if you have this parallelizable attribute, this test is going to fail. So I can probably show that as well. You can see it has got failed. And there is a reason for that because it is a multi-thread execution. It's going to throw the error because the feature context is currently in a static accessor and cannot be used in multi-threaded execution. So you have to comment this particular piece of code out. So basically in our repo right now, this particular code is going to be commented out. So I'm going to run this test right now. So now you can see that all the tests are basically going to run without any problem. All right, that's cool. So now let's see the report. So now, so far we have been seeing 3 different kinds of status report. So now if I try to refresh it, there you go. So now we have 3 different colors: pass, skip, and failure. Pass, skip, and failure. So if I click this, you can see for these scenarios, we can see the different kinds of reporting. So basically, this is exactly what we're looking for. This is exactly what is our requirement. And this is how intuitive our report is going to look like. Again, it shows a very, very intuitive report. You can see there is a dashboard of all the informations. So you can see what has been executed, what has been not executed, what are the steps being executed, when it is started, when it is the end, and time taken to execute this whole scenario. So these are the great things that we can see in the extent report as opposed to the pickle report that we saw earlier in our execute automation video series. So that's it, guys. So this is what is extent report, and this is how you can integrate with your code much simpler using a very, very simple code, just changing in the hook instead of changing in the actual step definitions or in the page object model concept code. So once again, thank you very much for watching this video and have a great day.